You know, when we first started doing these deep dives, I never imagined we'd be getting into something like this.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about Diddy Combs,
Right.
the music, the fashion, the
Yeah.
Ciroc.
Yeah.
But the stuff you sent me kind of paints a whole different picture.
It does get pretty dark, yeah.
Yeah.
It does.
So we've got articles, legal documents. We even have a YouTube video breaking down all these accusations against Diddy.
Right.
And it's a lot.
It is.
So let's try to unpack this carefully and figure out, like, what do we actually know? What's just alleged?
Right. What's speculation? What's, potentially verifiable?
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a really interesting case because it goes way beyond, your typical celebrity gossip.
Right.
I mean, we're talking about some serious accusations of criminal activity and even like a little bit of conspiracy theory thrown in there.
Yeah.
So understanding the context of like each piece of information is going to be really important.
Okay, so let's start with like the first domino to fall. That would be Cassie Ventura's lawsuit.
Right.
Back in 2023.
Yeah.
Diddy's ex-girlfriend.
Right.
They were together for like a decade.
A long time. Yeah.
And then she comes out with these accusations of abuse.
It really did open the floodgates, I think.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people pointed to that lawsuit as kind of the turning point.
Right.
Where this pattern of alleged behavior started to come to light.
Right. And it made people really reevaluate how they saw Diddy.
Absolutely.
Because before it was like, oh, he's this, music mogul. He's, got his clothing line. He's got the liquor.
The success story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rags to riches, kind of.
And then this comes out and it's like, whoa, hold on. It wasn't just like, arguments or harsh words.
Yeah.
This lawsuit alleges physical violence.
Yeah.
Like, there's actual security footage from a hotel where Diddy throws Cassie to the ground and kicks her.
That footage was really, I think, a game changer.
Yeah.
Because up until that point, it was kind of her word against his. But then that video came out.
Yeah.
And it really corroborated what she was saying.
Uh-huh.
And I think public opinion really shifted after that.
Yeah, it made people look back at like old interviews and Diddy's behavior. And
yeah, they started to see things differently.
Yeah, and then things got even weirder.
Yeah.
Remember Jonathan Odie?
Oh, yeah. How could we forget?
This is the guy who vandalized that Trump hotel.
Right.
And he was claiming to be like part of Diddy's Illuminati inner circle or something.
Right. He had all these kind of crazy theories.
Yeah, and he went on this rant about these freak-offs.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Yes. And at the time, a lot of people dismissed him,
Yeah.
as just like delusional.
Right.
But then when Cassie's lawsuit came out and described these similar events,
Yeah.
these forced sexual encounters often involving other people, it made you wonder.
Yeah, it made this freak-offs suddenly a lot more relevant.
Exactly.
So in the lawsuit, Cassie claims that Diddy would like pressure her into these situations.
Right.
Sometimes with other people,
Mm-hmm.
and that he would even film them.
Yeah.
And the details are really disturbing.
Yeah.
Like it paints this picture of someone using their power and their influence
Right.
to do some really awful things.
For really dark purposes, yeah.
And then to add to all of this, you have the Homeland Security raid on Diddy's mansions.
Oh, yeah.
Back in 2024.
Uh-huh.
They found a bunch of stuff.
All sorts of things, yeah.
But the one that stands out is 1,000 bottles of baby oil.
I know. It's like, what?
What is going on?
That was the detail that everyone latched onto.
I know.
Because on the surface, it seems almost trivial.
Yeah.
Like, who cares,
That's
right?
right.
But I think it fueled a lot of speculation.
Yeah.
Especially when you consider these allegations about these freak-offs and the possibility that other people were involved.
Yeah.
It's like that detail just added this other layer of weirdness.
Right. It's like you were saying before, context is everything.
Exactly.
And this just makes the whole thing even stranger.
It does.
So, of course, Diddy denied all the allegations.
Right.
And he ended up settling the lawsuit with Cassie.
Yeah.
Which, legally speaking...
Doesn't mean he's admitting guilt.
Right.
But it does make you wonder.
It does.
Why settle if you have nothing to hide?
Right.
And I think for a lot of people, that just added fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
They were already questioning his behavior.
Exactly.
And then this happened.
Right. And then it's like the dominoes just kept falling.
Yeah.
Because after Cassie's lawsuit, over 10 other people filed suits against Diddy.
That's right.
And then there's this Texas lawyer, Tony Busby.
Oh, yeah.
He claims that he's working with over 100 more potential victims.
It's a staggering number.
It is.
If that's true.
I know. And some of them, he says, were underage at the time.
Yeah.
So if that's true...
It means this alleged abuse could go back decades.
Yeah.
And impacted countless lives.
It's crazy because you have this incredibly successful public figure,
Right.
but then these accusations are painting this completely different picture.
It's a real dichotomy
Yeah.
between the public persona and these very serious allegations.
And it's not just a celebrity scandal.
No.
It's about power
Exactly.
and control.
And the potential for abuse.
Yeah.
I think that's why this story resonates so much with people.
Uh-huh.
It makes you question how someone so famous, so celebrated,
Right.
could also be capable of this kind of darkness.
Right. And how they could get away with it for so long.
Exactly. It makes you think about how power can corrupt
Yeah.
and how easily those in positions of authority can abuse that power.
Okay, so before we move on to other lawsuits and the details of the federal investigation,
Okay.
there's one more piece of this early part of the story that I think is important.
Okay.
That's the interview that Diddy's other ex-girlfriend, Gina, gave back in 2019.
Oh, right.
So this is a few years before Cassie's lawsuit even happens.
Mm-hmm.
And in this interview, she describes a very similar pattern of abuse from Diddy.
Really?
Yeah,
Yep.
like control, manipulation, even physical violence.
Mm-hmm.
She even claims that Diddy pressured her to terminate 2 pregnancies.
That's heavy.
It is, and at the time, her story barely made a ripple.
It's almost like she was trying to warn people,
Yeah.
but nobody was listening.
Or maybe they didn't want to listen.
Right.
It's crazy.
It is.
It really makes you think about how hard it is for victims to come forward,
Absolutely.
especially when the person they're accusing is someone as powerful as Diddy.
Right. They often face disbelief, backlash, even threats.
Yeah.
It's a really difficult position to be in.
And the fact that it's only now that people are starting to take Gina's story seriously,
Right.
along with the other alleged victims,
Yeah.
it just shows you the obstacles that victims face when they speak out against powerful figures.
It's a real problem, and it needs to change.
It does.
Yeah. And something else that's interesting is the timing of that BET award speech,
Oh, yeah.
where he kind of called out Cassie even though they had broken up years before.
This is like right before she filed the lawsuit, wasn't
Just a few months before.
it? Yeah.
So it almost feels like he knew what was coming,
Uh-huh.
and he was trying to control the narrative, you know?
Right. Get ahead of it.
Yeah, maybe even to discredit her before she could come forward.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's also possible that it was like a last-ditch attempt at reconciliation,
Oh, yeah.
but even then it was a very public and,
Kind of a weird way to do it.
yeah, a little inappropriate.
Yeah.
Whatever his intention was, though.
Right.
I think it just made things worse.
It definitely added fuel to the fire.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so let's move on to those other lawsuits against Diddy.
Okay.
Because there are some really disturbing accusations being made.
There are.
And you start to see this pattern emerging.
Absolutely, we're seeing claims of assault, sexual harassment, even coercion,
Right.
and it seemed to involve a lot of different people,
Uh-huh.
both men and women.
And the common thread is that abuse of power.
Exactly, using his position to take advantage of people.
There's one lawsuit in particular that really stands out to me.
Which one?
It's from Dawn Richard.
Oh, right.
She was a member of Danity Kane.
Yeah, the girl group that Diddy put together.
Exactly. And her lawsuit is really detailed.
Yeah, it's pretty disturbing.
Like, she alleges that Diddy was physically and emotionally abusive.
Wow.
And a lot of it happened in front of other people.
That's awful.
Yeah, there's even this one account where he's like dangling a friend of hers off a balcony.
Oh my God.
I know.
That's terrifying.
It's crazy.
It sounds like he was really trying to intimidate people.
Yeah, like he wanted to show everyone who was in control.
Yeah, that's a common theme in a lot of these lawsuits.
Right.
This idea of Diddy as someone who's prone to fits of rage
Right.
and who uses violence and intimidation to maintain his power.
And Dawn's lawsuit also backs up some of what Cassie said about the freak-offs.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she claims that she actually saw Diddy forcing Cassie into sexual acts with other people.
Wow.
And that it was against Cassie's will.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Because it means that these freak-offs weren't just isolated incidents. It suggests that this was a pattern of behavior,
Yeah.
a systematic way of abusing and exploiting people.
And then you have Tony Busby, the Texas lawyer, who
Right.
says he's working with over 100 more potential victims.
Yeah, that's a scary thought.
It is. And he
Uh-huh.
says some of them were underage at the time.
God, if even a fraction of those claims are true,
I know.
it's just a horrifying picture of Diddy's actions.
It's mind-boggling to think that someone could get away with this for so long.
It really is.
And it makes you wonder who else was involved.
Right, like were the people around him aware of what was going on?
Yeah.
Did they enable him?
Did they look the other way?
These are questions that need to be answered.
And we can't forget about the victims.
Of course not.
They've gone through so much trauma and fear.
And silence.
Yeah, they've been silenced for years.
The fact that they're coming forward now is incredible.
It is.
It takes a lot of courage.
It does.
And we need to listen to them.
We do.
Believe them.
And respect their stories.
Absolutely. Their stories matter.
They do.
And it's not just about individual stories either.
Right.
It's about systemic issues within the music industry and beyond.
Okay, so we've got these multiple lawsuits,
Right.
and we have this pattern of alleged behavior.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the federal investigation.
Right.
Where does that stand right now?
Well, we know that Homeland Security raided Diddy's homes,
Uh-huh.
but he wasn't actually arrested until months later.
Right.
And those raids uncovered some interesting things.
Yeah, like those 1,000 bottles of baby oil.
I know Diddy's lawyer tried to downplay it,
Right.
but it definitely raised some eyebrows.
It did.
It's not something you see every day.
Not at all.
And I think it just added another layer of strangeness to the whole story.
It's like one of those details where you're like, okay, what's the explanation for that?
It is.
Yeah, so what are the feds actually focusing on in their investigation?
Well, it seems like they're looking into allegations of human trafficking,
Wow.
which is a very serious crime.
Yeah.
And the details are still coming out.
Uh-huh.
But it seems to be connected to some of the claims in the lawsuits against Diddy,
Okay.
especially those related to coercion and exploitation.
And what about that video from the hotel in L.A.?
The one where Diddy assaults Cassie in the hallway.
Yeah.
That
Yeah, there were some rumors that the feds were the ones who leaked that footage to CNN.
wouldn't surprise me.
It's almost like they were trying to sway public opinion against Diddy before they brought any formal charges.
It's possible.
Yeah.
I mean, think about the impact that video had when it came out.
No, it's huge.
It made a lot of other alleged victims come forward.
Yeah, it's like it gave them validation.
And courage.
Yeah, the courage to break their silence.
It really speaks to the power of transparency
Mm-hmm.
and accountability.
You know, there's one more layer to this story that I think we need to talk about,
Okay.
and that's the death of Kim Porter,
Oh, yeah.
the mother of 3 of Diddy's children.
Right.
She passed away in 2018.
Uh-huh.
Officially, it was pneumonia. But there have been these whispers and allegations that Diddy might have been involved somehow.
I've heard those too.
And now this book has come out.
Really?
Yeah, it claims to have excerpts from Kim Porter's diary.
And what does it say?
Well, it alleges that Diddy was abusive towards her.
Even after they separated.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's been a lot of controversy about this book.
Yeah, I bet.
Some people think it's authentic,
Mm-hmm.
and others think it's completely made up.
Right.
And we don't know for sure,
No.
but the claims in the book are really disturbing.
And they line up with some of the things we've heard from other alleged victims.
Right.
So even if the diary itself isn't real,
Yeah.
the fact that these allegations are out there,
Uh-huh.
it adds another layer of complexity to the whole situation.
Okay, so we're going to dive into the specifics of those claims in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
Because it's a really sensitive topic.
It is.
And it deserves its own careful examination.
I agree.
Okay, so we left off talking about Kim Porter's death. Right.
And this diary that's supposedly hers,
All right.
it's tough stuff.
It is?
But I think we got to talk about it,
Yeah, I agree.
especially with everything else we've learned about Diddy.
It's a really important piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
You know, Kim Porter's death was officially attributed to pneumonia,
Right.
but this diary, if it's real,
Yeah.
suggests that there might be more to the story.
So let's get into what the diary actually says.
Okay.
What kind of claims are we talking about here?
Well, the diary entries paint a really troubling picture of their relationship.
Okay.
They claim that Diddy was abusive toward Kim Porter, emotionally and physically.
And this was even after they broke up.
Yeah, even after they were no longer together romantically.
Wow.
There are accounts of him being controlling, having an explosive temper,
Uh-huh.
and Kim Porter living in constant fear.
It's just awful to think about.
Yeah.
To be that afraid even after you've left someone,
It speaks to the lasting impact of abuse.
and how hard it can be to escape those patterns.
The diary also hints at this, like, darker side to Diddy.
Right.
Like, stuff the public never saw,
Yeah.
allegations of shady business deals, connections to dangerous people.
A history of violence that went way beyond what anyone knew.
It makes you think about Jonathan Odie again.
Yeah.
The guy with the Illuminati stuff.
Right.
He talked about these dark secrets.
And as crazy as he sounded,
Yeah.
some of what he said has actually been corroborated.
Right.
Almost like he was trying to warn us.
Yeah, but no one was listening.
Or they didn't believe him.
And that's the hard thing with a story like this.
Yeah.
There's so much speculation.
So much noise.
It's hard to separate fact from fiction.
Exactly.
But even with all that,
Uh-huh.
the number of accusations against Diddy,
Right.
the consistency of the stories.
And the evidence that's coming out,
Yeah,
it all points to something really bad.
it does.
And you know what's really interesting is that Diddy hasn't said anything about this diary.
Yeah. Oh, really?
He's denied everything else.
Right.
But on this, he's been totally silent.
That's kind of telling, don't you think?
It is. It makes you wonder if there's something more to it.
Right.
Something he doesn't want people to know.
So where does this leave us? We've got the lawsuits.
Federal investigation.
And now this diary.
A lot.
What does it all mean?
I think it means we need to rethink how we see Sean Diddy Combs.
Okay.
You know, he's built this image of himself.
The music mogul, the fashion icon.
Right, the philanthropist.
Yeah.
But I think this other side of him,
Uh-huh.
the abuse, the darkness,
Yeah.
we can't just ignore that.
It's a reminder that fame and fortune don't make you a good person.
Exactly.
And we need to be more critical of the people we put on a pedestal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially those in positions of power.
This story is far from over.
Not even close.
But one thing's for sure.
What's that?
Diddy's image, his legacy,
Yeah.
it's been tarnished.
I think that's a fair assessment.
And we can't forget about the people who've accused him.
Of course not.
They've been through so much.
They deserve justice.
They do.
And they deserve to heal.
This deep dive has been...
Heavy.
Yeah, it has.
We've seen how power can corrupt
How abuse can stay hidden.
and how hard it is for victims to come forward.
So, as this story continues to unfold, I hope you'll keep asking questions.
Yeah.
Be critical of what you hear.
And most importantly,
Yeah.
believe victims